Okay, so we start with a very, very easy joke from the database world. An SQL, oh, I have the British version of it. An SQL statement walks into a pub, sees two tables, and asks, "May I join you?" You see the NoSQL crowd thinking to her neighbors, "Hey, can you explain this joke to me?" So, our first speaker, Yolanda Robla.
Hi. So I'm Yolanda Robla. I work for, you hear me okay? Yeah? I work for HP. I work for OpenStack and OpenStack Infra projects. And I'm going to show you today about KubeStack CI. That is a pet project that we are starting to start using the dynamic Jenkins slaves using a Kubernetes cluster. So, okay, what's KubeStack? As we work in OpenStack Infra, we have a huge need of having Jenkins slaves for all our testing. We have tests that are more complicated, but we have also tests that are very simple. We need paper tests, unit tests. So it's faster for us. We don't need to have a full VM. We don't need to have bare metal for do that. But we have a problem that we need to install all sorts of dependencies to run these packages, configurations. So we need to have a way to just launch a VM, run the test there, and destroy it. And launching a VM sometimes is very slow, and it's hard for us. So we are trying to look at some alternatives, and we are starting to use Docker and use Kubernetes. So that service is a Python service that is just connected to a Kubernetes master, a Kubernetes cluster, and to Jenkins. And it's trying to orchestrate the demand for all the containers we have. We just have a set of Docker containers or Docker-based images, and we need to spin up all the containers that we have depending on demand, run the test there, and destroy them. The advantage that we have is that Docker is very, very fast. Once you have the Docker image in place, it's just a matter of seconds of launching that. You can configure several images depending on your needs. And also, one of the advantages that Kubernetes has in front of just Docker, at least for us, is that you can define the CPU, the memory requirements that you have depending on the test. So Kubernetes, if you have like a set of 4 or 5 minions, it's just distributing the VMs or the containers at the minion with more resources. And it's also open source, and it's very configurable, this project, so you can start using for your own needs. So how it works, I can show you a small workflow. You need to have a Jenkins master. You also need to have a Kubernetes cluster already existed. You can use any provider that you need. Or you can use Amazon, OpenStack, whatever. You have a Kubernetes master and several Kubernetes minions, depending on your needs. So our service, the KubeStack, is just connecting to the cluster with the API, and it's connected to the Jenkins master. KubeStack is just listening to the build queue of Jenkins master, and is listening for the demand of the different node types that you need. So it just detects this demand, is connecting to the Kubernetes cluster, and it's asking it to build pods. The pods are just simple, they're just like a simple Docker image. The only need of this image is that is able to act as a Jenkins master. You need to have Java installed there. You need to have the generality command to just connect to the master, and that's all. So once a demand is detected, Kubernetes is just spinning up a new pod. It's connected to the Jenkins master, and then Jenkins, as soon as it has it available, is just executing the job there. Once Jenkins is finished doing the job, it just publishes the status of this job to any publisher that you have. For example, you can have a ZeronQ plugin to just publish the status there, or you can have a different JSON plugin, for example, to publish the status. KubeStack will listen to this status, and once it knows that the job has finished, it will just destroy the pod to free resources for more jobs to come. So that's the full workflow that we are starting to use to have this test just running, and we have tested it, and it's very, very fast. You can configure for your own needs, so I just wanted to show it. And I think that's all. I'm on time more or less.
Thank you, Yolanda. So Adam Johnson, please set up. And you see, if you have the right tools, you finish in time. That's something about KubeStack. I was making jokes about NoSQL, and there is some little jealousy in me. I'm a PostgreSQL guy. And one thing I'm jealous for is the millions and billions of marketing dollars MongoDB can put out there. But what I'm even more jealous of, they implemented the right to be forgotten way before we even thought about it. Oh, he's still patching the resolution. Wonderful.
Lots of patching here.
Give Adam Johnson a big patchy applause.
Hello, I'm Adam. I'm here to introduce Patchy. It's an alternative to monkey patching. Just a quick revision. What is monkey patching? Some of you might not have heard of it. So it's when you modify objects defined in another module. The simplest example I can think of is you import sys, create this function, add it to sys. Suddenly everyone else that's using sys can use it. More complicated would be if you were replacing functionality. So you import a class that you've got from a library and it doesn't work the way you want, so you change that a little bit. Kind of ugly stuff, much more in the Ruby world, but we have to do in Python sometimes. So, with that in mind, who's written a monkey patch? And who's worked on a code base that relied on monkey patches to keep working? It's quite a big thing. Okay. At Whiteplan, we have a few monkey patches, especially to the core of Django. We need to customize things that weren't really designed for customization. It's a lot easier than forking it. We've got like a few lines to change. One example here is the history view on the admin. Here's an example of the pre-patchy situation. We'd copy out the function, so it's a 35-line function, history view, and then you can see the comment on the fourth line there. Oh, the following line has been changed to say view rather than change. This is not very nice. And then you can see at the bottom, you patch it back in, and then the Django model admin starts behaving the way we want rather than the way they shipped. Introducing Patchy, which is a slightly better way to do this. The simplest explanation I found is that you can patch the source of functions at runtime, and by that I mean not monkey patching, but patching, like with a patch file which people used to email around. So here's a quick example. We define this function. It's got 2 lines. It always returns 1. Simple. Run it, returns 1. We call Patchy and tell it with this simple patch file, please, at lines 1 to 2, replace this following line. It deletes the line that says return 1. It adds in the line that says return 9001. And then it returns the number over 9000. Most people are like, what? Why did you do this? Why did you need this? What is it doing? But if we go back to that admin patch we have there, it has improved at least a little bit. So you can see what is being changed about the source. It's got context lines, and they will be matched. So if the function underneath is changed due to like a library upgrade or something, it will fail, and it will tell you, look, this patch doesn't work anymore. And it expresses the change in code rather than a comment. How does it work? Well, this is a Lightning talk, so I'm just going to have to leave you with the explanation. It's magic. It's not really that bad. It just uses the GNU patch utility underneath. One of the benefits of it is that unlike monkey patching, you don't have to chase up the function if it's been imported into multiple modules, because you're actually modifying that function rather than redefining it. And with that, thank you.
Woo! Alex, thank you very much. Alex Wilmer, please set up your computer. I need David McIver and Steve Holden in the staging area. It's good enough with you there, and I can see you, Steve. Don't worry too much with walking. So he's setting up. Remember when Picard asked Data why he didn't answer his friend request on Facebook? Captain, my captain, I'm an android. I can't solve the CAPTCHAs. Takes a bit to get used to. Now, prefix all the doc tests. Alex Wilmer.
Warning, this Lightning talk contains monkey patching, which the state of California has identified as a cause of cancer. So, who here is trying to maintain code that works in Python 2 and Python 3? Who here is trying to do that and using doc tests? Who here has been driven to drink? Okay. So, the aim. We would like for the consumers of our libraries and packages to have a single source that works on both Python 2 and Python 3.x. We would also like our packages to be reasonably tested. Some of us like using doc test for that, or for examples. And we would like to be able to ship the same code to work unmodified in both. With care, this is possible. The problem is, as soon as you write doc tests involving strings, you can have them pass in one or the other, but not both. So if you write your doc tests and prefix the return values, your textual functions work in Python 2, but not in Python 3, because the wrapper of a textual string in Python 3 has no prefix. And if you put a little b in front of your byte strings, they pass in 3.x, but fail in 2.x. If you take out the prefixes, so like that, it reverses. Your textual things fail in 2.x and now pass in 3.x. They pass in 2.x, but they fail in 3.x. You cannot have your cake and eat it. Until now. This is the hack. We are going to create our own version of the wrapper function that always prefixes all strings in all versions of Python all the time. We call this a prefix reaper. We instantiate it, and then we replace the built-in wrapper function with our own. We also replace sys.displayHook with a little version that calls our version of wrapper. Now, in all your doc tests that apply this little monkey patch, Unicode strings are represented with a little u, byte strings with a little b. Doesn't matter if you use literals or functions that return those values, you still get them, and your doc tests pass in all parts of Python. I hope that made sense. This is supported on 2.6, 2.7, and 3.3+, which is generally considered the sane versions of Python to support cross-version. Now, this is a bit hacky. You might not want to do this, but you might still have to write doc tests that work on all versions. If you like, you can wrap the result of your byte string functions in a byte array. The wrapper of byte array is the same in all versions of Python that support byte array, so you'll also be able to support Python 3.2 and possibly 3.1, haven't tested it, for a little bit of visual clutter. The other alternative is just drop Python 2.x. Now, the question. This is currently just a proof of concept. There is the more in-depth explanation. What I would like to ask you, show of hands, should I develop this further? 1, 2, 3. Am I being evil? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so either most of you don't care or I haven't explained myself. If you'd like to talk about it more in depth, probably Twitter was a bad choice, but I've chosen it anyway. And thank you very much.
Woo! Thank you very much, Alex. I need David MacGyver to set up, and I need Tom Campbell to come to the staging area. David MacIver? Yeah, please set up. You don't have a setup. That's cool. So I'll set you up. David MacIver about why is everything terrible. Give him a big hand.
So obviously everything being terrible is audiovisual stuff, definitely terrible. But no, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I can't cover why everything is terrible in 5 minutes, but I want to cover a specific problem that I think most of us are probably dealing with. So if what I'm about to describe doesn't sound familiar, you can switch off for the rest of this talk. Do you use a lot of libraries, and you find they don't really work quite right. Like there's a bug, and at first you're not really sure it's a bug or whether the library is just confusingly designed because there's not much documentation. And eventually you go, no, this is actually a bug in the library. And you file an issue, and nothing happens. And then you fix it. No, you fix it yourself, and you submit a pull request, and nothing happens. And then maybe a month later, you you just fork it and you run your own private version. So why does this happen? And it happens for a very simple reason, which is that most of the code that is running in your production application was written by someone in their spare time as their hobby. And either they don't currently have time for it, or they had time for it for a while and they don't currently need it, so it's not a priority, or it was a priority for a long time, and it got really, really popular, and they just started getting bombarded with bug requests, and at some point, bugs and feature requests, and at some point they gave up. And PyPy is full of packages like this, and it's really not the author's fault. Like they were doing a huge favor to the world, and they gave away this work for free, and basically now they're not doing that, and here we are all sitting there making money off their work, and then we get annoyed when this free labor they've given us doesn't actually do everything we want it to. And this sort of feels untenable. We're all suffering as a result, either whether we're the authors of these packages or whether the users of these packages. Like, this isn't a good situation for everyone, for anyone. Either we are having things not work properly, or we are feeling really guilty about the fact that people are using our stuff and it doesn't work properly. And there's not much we can do about it. And I don't have a perfect solution to this problem. I'm really sorry. But I would like people to think about what we can do as a community to help with this. And in particular, what I would really not like us to try and do is to feel bad about this and go and spend our own time contributing to these people's projects. Like, you can do that if you want, and it's a good deed, which I recommend. But all that will happen is that you will become another person who is suffering as a result of the system, because now you're also giving away your labor for free as a hobby, and it's breaking free rule. So I want companies to actually stand up and go, we're relying on this work. We should do something about it, because we can't realistically expect that this will keep happening, that we'll keep getting support for free. And we should be very worried about what's going to happen when something breaks at the worst possible moment. So why don't we head off some of that now? So I would like you to go away and think about how you can talk to your company about contributing back in either time or money to the people who are developing the libraries that you depend on. Because when people are working full-time on things, they have time to sit down and design stuff. It's not just they can fix your bugs, it's that your experience will be better from day one. And there's a lot of money in the Python world, and very little of it is going to most of the people who are building the things that we're using to make that money. And that's a shame. And that's really all I want to say right now. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David MacIver. So, another roll call for Tom Campbell. Tom? Please come to the staging area. Okay, thank you very much. I was doing quite some research for another talk about brain stuff, how the brain works and thingy, and I learned that while being a very small part of the body mass, it takes up a lot of energy for working. So I had the business idea to sell an ebook, Think Yourself Slim. Because if it takes a lot of the calories, if you do the right things, you can lose more calories. The challenge is it's a very, very narrow market. People have to be stupid enough to buy this ebook and still be wise enough that it can work. So I'm still evaluating that business idea. And until then, let's listen to things I have learned about testing by Steve Holden. Give him a big hand.
Hi there. Larry just gave me this sticker. I'm going to need a bigger laptop now. So, in actual fact, I'm going to try and be a little ambitious and give 2 lightning talks in the 1 5-minute slot, just to prove to people that lightning talks don't have to be 5 minutes long. So, some things I've learned about testing. Back in 1983, I worked for the Department of Computer Science at Manchester, which was basically split up into programmers and engineers. And I thought, well, I'm fucked if I'm going to be categorized as a programmer. So I built myself an MC6809 microcomputer, which in those days was, quite an advanced little thing to do. And I built it using wire wrap technology. If you know anything about wire wrap, it's a bit of a pain to change. It's especially a pain if you use the technique on the right called on the left called daisy chaining, because if you do that, if you have to move the first wire, then that means you've got to unwrap the second wire, which means you've got to unwrap the third wire. So we very quickly learned to do alternate layers of wraps, but even then you could end up having to remove 3 wires just to change one particular piece of wiring. So I had what I thought was a potentially functional prototype, and I had to decide how to test it. And I thought, well, the easiest way is just to write a little program. I think it was 4 instructions, 8 bytes, just to cycle through 256 RAM locations. And I figured if I put a logic analyzer on the address bus, then if I triggered it at 0, I could actually see this nice little binary sequence counting up on the bottom 8 bits of the address bus. Unfortunately, I didn't have any support infrastructure because this was a university, so I couldn't go out and buy an assembler for the 6809 or anything like that. So since it was only 8 bytes, I thought, well, what the hell, I'll hand assemble it. So I burned it into a PROM, and I ran the program, and guess what? It didn't work. So I checked the wiring, which typically, it'd take me 2 to 4 hours to check the wiring, and I fixed a couple of errors. You had to fix errors by rewrapping, real pain, but anyway. So over the next 24 hours, I actually found about 4 wiring errors and fixed them, even though actually the wiring errors I'd found didn't really explain the issue, but I figured, well, they're errors, so I'd better take them out. And every time I reran the program, and it still didn't work. Oh, dear. So, I mean, basically, I thought, well, okay, I've been at this, 3 days now, 24 hours over 3 days. So finally, I convinced myself there couldn't be any further wiring errors, so I disassembled the test program, and sure enough, one of the instructions had the indirection bit set when it should not have. So the lesson from that is always suspect your software, because even an 8-byte program can have bugs in it. So going back even further to the first year of my programming career, I worked for a company called Mills Scaffold, who were a scaffold manufacturer who had 50 depots up and down the country. And so they had 50 branches, and I wrote a program, MI06, which did a stock movements report to let people know where the stock was. So we had to produce about 6 pages for each branch. So that meant that the report with 50 branches was over 300 pages. And of course, back in 1968, we used screen listing. This was a 3-part screened listing, which was about £45 for a box of 1,000 sheets. And I looked it up today, and I discovered that's in today's value about 730 quid. So there I am, producing a 300-plus page report. The cost of the paper alone is like a couple of hundred quid. So anyway, as I was writing this program, we got to the end, got it all tested, and I was talking to the systems analyst, Andy Partridge, and we decided that we put this little Easter egg in. So just before Christmas, the blank line between the 2 heading lines at the top of every sheet would read A Merry Christmas to All Our Readers from Steve Holden and Andy Partridge. So I put that change into the print headings function after I'd done my testing, so it would be a surprise at week 50. And I left the company in September, and it was only about 2 years later when I met one of the systems analysts who I'd worked at Mills Scaffold with, and I hadn't got on particularly well with the chief programmer, a Cockney guy called Dave, when I was at Mills. And so this guy said, I said, you know, how are you? How are things at Mills? He said, oh, for God's sake, don't ever go back there. Dave will have your guts for garters. I said, why? He said, well, you know that 300-page report of yours? Yes. He said, well, the week before Christmas, every other line in the report read, and a Merry Christmas to all our readers. So the obvious lesson from that experience is always test every change. Right, on to the second lightning talk, which is...
No chance.
How to give a short lightning talk, and it goes, how to give a short lightning talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve Holden. I began wondering, how many bugs can you possibly have in 8 bytes? At least one. Steve tested it, but is it faculty of 8? Is it 8 to the power of 8? Is it even more? Is there even a correct program in 8 bytes? Things that can give you a paper in computer science. More about computer science, the 2 most difficult things in computer science: cache invalidation, naming things, off by 1 errors. If we are talking about 1, there is a story of the Buddhist monk going to the hot dog stand and asking, make me 1 with everything. He paid 5 quid. He didn't get change. Do you know why? Change comes from within. Thank you, Larry. Stabbing someone in the back, Tom Campbell.
Okay, if this is terrible, I'm really sorry. This was not planned. But tomorrow, I would like you to come help us stab people in the back. That sounded a lot better when I was sitting down there. Okay, so what I mean by that is I am part of the Axelrod Python organization, and we are an open source project. And if you were listening to a little talk that Vince gave yesterday, there is a sprint going on tomorrow about our project, which is about reproducing Axelrod's Prisoner's Dilemma work in the 80s. Is anyone here? Could you put your hands up if you're familiar with that, just so I get an idea? Okay, brilliant. Anyone who didn't put their hand up, I'm going to waste 5 minutes of your time. So, what I'm 15 years old. I learned Ruby originally on Code Academy. So I'm self-taught on Ruby. I'm really sorry, it was Ruby, yeah. But I didn't get particularly far. And then my brother went to university and studied maths at Cardiff and found that everything that he did was in Python. And so I, with a large sigh, relearned everything I'd done with Ruby on Python, which I didn't find much difference, but you'll probably shoot me for saying that. So no, it was much better. It's great. And so I also found this website, Project Euler, that I'd had recommended to me, which was, are any of you familiar with Project Euler? Do you know what that is? Oh, brilliant. More people. I'm not wasting your time. It's great. Okay, and I love that website. It just gives you problems that you can solve with code, and I've done 53 problems of Project Euler. I've been told apparently that's quite good, so that's always good. So, Axelrod Python. We're here we're reproducing Rob Axelrod's work on Prisoner's Dilemma. We want as many strategies and as much contributions as we can possibly get. We currently have 85 strategies. And I first came across this on GitHub and saw it was really good. And so I suppose you could say I decided to help myself to some Daniele power. And so I began contributing, and if you look right at the top there in the top left corner, that's mine. So that's the little reference called backstabber and double crosser. So I love stabbing people in the back, and it seems to work quite well. So that's all nice. So that's the moral of this talk, really. If you want to win stuff, stab people in the back. No, let's not go with that. We'll find something else. And so what I want to say is we've got a sprint on this tomorrow. I mean, obviously, it's really good. If you can get a 15-year-old interested in this sort of stuff, then it's really interesting. It's really easy to get into. I hope you all really enjoy it. I'd love for as many people as possible to come along. I hope you really enjoy it, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Santado. Thank you so much. And I need Papanik. Ah, it's really the name. I was not sure, to come to the staging area. Also, I need Ed Singleton to come to the staging area. And I need... And Yakun, who wanted to talk 5 minutes to save your ass? Andy Brown. Yeah, you could make it out of it. So what do you call a fish who doesn't share? Selfish. Correct. Very correct. Have you heard about that book on Opera, The Secret, where you formulate your wishes and you can order it from the universe? I've been working with a lot of companies who do online sales, and they tell me with clothes they have a 60% return rate. Now, just imagine you try to order your life wishes from the universe. What return rate will there be? And what's the return policy of the universe? Now, Alex B. PB will talk about liquid demoing. Give him a big hand.
Before I start, a couple of quick questions. Put your hands up if you don't think we live in a democracy in this country. Later. All right, put your hands up if you do think we live in a democracy. It's about 50-50. Okay, interesting. Not what I was expecting, but... I've got a nice quote from Churchill, the actual real one here, where he says he's quoting someone else and how terrible democracy is, but still better than everything else. And the general idea everyone's familiar with, you discuss things, you propose things, you vote on them. Great, it's fantastic, it works brilliant for small groups, but doesn't scale up. What we've got for democracy in our country is not very representative. But these are recent election results, how we voted and what we got, and they're quite different due to our rather broken first-past-the-post system. Also take into account that most people don't vote for what they want. They vote tactically, which means voting for someone else they hate, which isn't a very good start. And then even forgetting about these charts, the way democracy works in our country, it's kind of broken. Trying to get one person to represent a few thousand people isn't going to work. I'd be happier with any one of you in here representing me than my local MP in Cornwall, who I disagree with everything she says, whereas you guys, it's only about half, so that's at least a little better. It's not my original concept. I think it was thought up by some Italian guy, but I'm slightly malforming his ideas. Liquid democracy, the general concept is you can have more than one representative. So you don't have one person representing you for everything, but in different topics you have different people representing you. So someone here would be my Python representative, probably someone else my PHP and C++ representatives. And I'm actually building this system. I'm taking it a little bit further. These are stock images, incidentally, not my images as well. I just did this up earlier. You have a tree of topics. So you have general topics like computing, then subtopics like programming, and subtopics as deep as you want. It's all a bit ad hoc and votable. And your representatives can have sub-representatives, giving you a tree-like structure over here. And in fact, in this image, we can see one of the people being represented isn't happy with what's happened, so he's overridden his representative and voted directly, meaning it's a kind of smooth transition between direct democracy and the dictatorship. But if you're being an evil dictator, you immediately lose your power, so it's not very risky, hopefully. And the system I'm building, the new system I'm building, I restarted last week, is called Mesh Democracy, Agora. It is very young, it's a week of light work, but I'll give you a quick demo if you've got enough time, and if I can make this laptop work enough. How do I run a command on this? Firefox. Oh, it's already up. Is it? Yeah. Yes, brilliant. I can't see it on this other screen, but this is the interface is not where the effort's gone. The effort's gone into the back end and the vote counting. But the general idea is you've got this tree of topics, and you can pick representatives for anything in the tree, and in the same or subtrees, your representative can have representatives giving you a long chain. And, oops, I've got an overview of the representation map up here, which this also won't scale, but it shows all the people on the system have at least one representative, and the arrow is the direction, and that there's missing information from this graph. And if I'm to look at an actual topic, this is the only one really being used, which is largely a to-do list of things to do in this system, such as making it editable, adding support for images. And we can see how a vote went down. Currently, there's not really any concept of private data in the system. You can see exactly who's voted on what, with a nice chart to show how they were represented. And that's the general concept. I'm representing 2 people here, so I've got 2 votes plus my own, meaning 3 votes, and 2 people have voted for something directly. Yes, it's on GitHub, it's under the AGPL. Have a look, tell me what you hate about it, and I'll be very happy to hear.
Thank you very much, Alex, PB. I can see myself totally working in a mirror factory. So, I also need on the staging area Danny Dmax. Yeah, it's quite correct. I can't understand people being scared of pi. That's totally irrational. So now it's a complicated joke. 16 sodium atoms walk into a pub, followed by Batman. Did you get it? Can you explain it for all those with no chemical background? You have to sing it.
Hi.
Okay, now let's talk about time zones. Na-na-na-na-na, Athens, and Papanik. Give him a big hand.
Hi. So I have to deal a lot with times in my work, and well, it seems like a really, really easy idea that you have 2 things that happen in 2 different places in the world. So you have something that happened before and something that happened after. Well, let's forget about relativity and stuff. So what happens now is that many times you have to take something from someone, and they have a timestamp, which normally most of the people mean by, well, maybe some numbers or something that has no time zone info, no anything. Sometimes they say it's UTC, but in reality they mean local time, because is that different? So yeah, they are, but so. And many times I find that people try to fix that problem, and well, let's go and see. I have 2 time zones, and I have a time now and daytime in UTC now. So these 2 things represent, let's say I did it in Athens, these 2 represent the same time, like in reality. But there's no time zone info. And most people will try to fix that themselves, which is a bad idea. And why is it bad? Well, the reason is that at the moment Athens is 3 hours after UTC. But if you just add 3 hours and replace the time zone, well, you have like 1.5 hours apart. So it's really, really bad idea to try to just add the offset and change the time zone. That's the worst thing you can do. There's a really, really simple solution for that, which is that you use the time zone, localize, you have it in the time zone, and there's no time delta, because you begin with 2 things in the same time. So the reason behind this is that because when you do a replace, the time zone is that and the other one is that, and you can see the first one is 1:35, not 3 hours afterward. So that's the main problem, and that is the solution. Yeah, that's the solution to our problems. And as like another thing about time zones, when you supply someone with a time, it's a really, really good idea to tell them what time zone is it in, and it makes everybody's life easier. I mean, so simple. That's it.
Thank you very much. Ed Singleton. Oh. Okay. Yeah, working in a world-spanning company like Second Quadrant, I got very used to always prefix or postfix my appointments with the time zone I'm in and when we will be there. You can look in really weird eyes if you do it with people in your own time zone. If you make an appointment to meet for lunch and you tell them it's Central Euro summertime, let's meet at 12 o'clock. But it works, it works. Dead batteries will be given free of charge. And Ed Singleton will have a modest proposal. Give him a big hand.
There's a piece of code up on the screen here. If you can't read it, might be something wrong with your eyes. Or no, it's deliberately blurred because I want us to just look at the shape and the color coding. And you can tell a lot about code without being able to read it. Squint your eyes at your editor, and you can still tell things. For example, where the gray highlighted line is, we can see there's a few if statements there. If that was any longer, we'd be looking at that thinking, it's a code smell, that should be refactored into something else. We can see a big white block, which clearly isn't a docstring, it's in a function, and we're storing big chunks of text in functions. Again, that, not definitely, but that should probably be pulled out into something else. But we can also see that the code is fairly shallow. Look at another example. Again, we can see this is a single function, very deep indentation. You'd normally think that maybe this was a code smell of some sort, but you can certainly tell that it's a very deeply nested structure. We've got a for loop. But, sorry, in the previous example, this indentation has meaning. It tells us something about the code. There is information in the indentation. slightly smaller example, so it's blown up a bit more. We've got some deep indentation. This is ugly. This doesn't have information in the same way that the previous example did. This is tricking us into maybe thinking, when we're looking from a distance, that it's deeply nested or something like that. This has information, and this is ugly. This doesn't have information. So my modest proposal, in the spirit of Jonathan Swift, is that indentation should only increase by 1 unit at a time. I don't care what the unit is, a tab, 2, 4, or 8 spaces, whatever you choose, indentation should only increase by 1 unit at a time, not arbitrary amounts of space that happen to be the same length as a function name. Together we can make the world a more meaningful place. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ed. And almost remember, thou shall indent 4 spaces. 4 spaces is the place you shall indent. Tabs are way off. And I think it's, yeah, oh, you need no setup. I think it's very, very tolerant of the Python community to have a talk with showing a lot of Perl code on the screen. It's a great idea. Thank you very much, Ed. I need the lady or the man talking about the interplanetary file system to think about her or his name. Okay, doesn't know the name. Probably stored somewhere in the interplanetary file system. So our next speaker, Andy Brown, about 5 minutes to save your ass. Give him a big hand.
I'm Andy Brown. I work for Oxford Nanopore Technologies. We're hiring. If you want to speak to me later on, that's fine. I thought I'd better get that in quickly. But I'm not going to talk to you about code. This is quite an interactive talk. So first of all, it's going to give you a quote that I quite happen to like from Charles Baudelaire from The Clock, which is, remember, time is a greedy player who always wins without cheating every round. Our time goes so fast during a day, we lose track of it, we lose track of ourselves, and we also lose track of our health while we're doing it. So I want everybody to stand up now. And in the other rooms as well, you can all do this and all join in. Right, okay then, so I want you to put your hand up if you commonly find yourselves spending more than an hour sitting down in front of your computer terminals in a day. What a surprise. Put it down if it's under 2, sorry, keep it up if it's generally over 2 hours. Right, okay, you can all put them down. That's what I expected. Right, okay then. So, this is bad for you, okay? Incredibly bad for you. So one thing you can go quickly do now is, whatever hand you typically use your mouse with, if you don't use a mouse, you're left-handed or right-handed, whichever one, stretch it out to the side, level with your shoulder. Try not to hit the person next to you. Tilt your head to the other side. And then just lift your hand up and down a few times, palm facing upwards at the time. Okay, that's enough. Right, that will help relieve any carpal tunnel syndrome or RSI that you might develop whilst using your computers. You can stop now. How many people have actually suffered from little pins and needles in their fingers when they've been typing for a while? It's about half of you. Okay. So you can all sit down again now, all right? I did actually happen to work out, because I've been sitting down for over an hour just now, that most of you have been sitting down for at least an hour anyway. Okay then, so how do you resolve this problem? Well, there's a couple of ways of doing it. One of them is just taking 5 minutes after every 25 minutes you've been working for, stand up, walk around, and have a little micro break. Okay, it's called the Pomodoro technique. You set a clock. Francesco Cirillo invented it, and the first clock he found when he was looking for something was a tomato shape, hence the Pomodoro technique. Set it for 25 minutes. You can do it on your computer. Just let that tick whilst you're working, concentrating on what you're working on, and then when the timer goes off, get up, walk around for 5 minutes, okay, and that will help you. It will stretch your arms, shoulders, and also, where this comes from, the 5 minutes to save your arse, that a few years ago there was a report. Anyone here suffered from piles? Right. A couple of you are brave enough to admit it. Okay, so in actual fact, one of the major causes of piles is actually sitting down for long periods of time. So if you remember nothing else about this talk when you go away on, if you're here tomorrow on Tuesday, then just remember this: sitting down for long periods of time will give you piles, and computer programs are subject to that. So there you go.
Thank you very much. Woo! I need Andrea on the staging area. Andrea? Where's Andrea Fagan? Back to Ireland, I guess. I need Jörn Lomba on the staging area. Jörn? Very good. And I need Björni on the staging area. Björni? Very good. It's available. About that training and things, from the jokes that don't work, you see that I watch a lot of science fiction. And what I really always wondering about, weight training on Earth is a cheap thing to do. Weights are not costing much, so all the gyms are full of weight training because it's cheap, takes a lot of room, and you can do a lot of things. But they do weight training on spaceships. Now, they have faster than light travel and beaming and whatever. Anyway, if you want to accelerate any mass, you need energy. So to have weight training on a spaceship is very stupid. You need an artificial gravity to lift, to get any resistance, and you have to accelerate those spaces. And just thinking the artificial gravity goes away, you will have weights flying around, and even without gravity, they still have mass, as long as there are Higgs bosons, and running into a weight, flying with faster than light against your head with a mass of 100 kilograms, that will save your ass. So, translating sites about Daniel Ampuro. Ah, that's Daniel Ampuro. Give him a big hand.
So, alongside with people that refuse to use UTC or British summertime, there are some people actually refusing to speak English. So for those people, we have to translate. And it turns out to be sometimes a painful process. Whoever here have ever worked with translation, can you raise your hands? All right, some people know a little bit of it. So the process is well-known, gettext process, all stuff from the 90s. So basically, in your PY files and template files, there is an extraction process, creates a POT file, and then for every language, you have a PO file, which you send to the translators, and eventually, when you compile this file, you get a MO file. To set it in Django is quite easy-ish. You have to install Django Babel, configure it, and set some settings. Also, you need a middleware to whatever page you pass or whatever request can translate correctly. Because how do you use it? Basically, you import this UGT text there, and there is a convention to use underscore for as an alias for the function to translate. So this is an easy example of how you do it in a view. And there is also an example how to use it in templates. So this sometimes can be a bit tricky. If you have more than one line, then you better use block trans. And if you have plurals, you have to use the counters and stuff. So what might make you swearing, and that's the trickiest part about translations. And if you speak another language like me, you will swear in your language. So first one, plurals. Turns out that there are many languages that don't have only 2 plurals. They have 3 or 5, and that can be a pain in the neck. if you don't understand that. But usually translators deal with that. Another stuff is Python format, has a escape character, and if you use rate like percentage or rates, like we do in our company, it might be a problem as well. And last but not least, this is a total pain, and it's merging files. So when you do the instructions, all the message IDs are changing the positions, and you merge, and then the results you get is totally different. So if you're working on a file and then somebody else work on it, then it might change. So a solution I found, maybe there's something else better there, is to use a message cat, which is a tool for gettext, and then check the changes manually with a diff tool. So go and translate it all.
Woo! Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Che Cannot Print RN Lombard. You can set up. I'm just trying to make a joke about a Unicode character. Linux Mint, very good, very good. On the other hand, you have different fingers. And do you know the difference between a bad golfer and a bad skydiver? A bad golfer goes whack, damn. Okay, Unicode and why it's great, Jörn Lombard. Give him a big hand.
Okay, this probably ties quite well in with the previous talk. It's about language. If you're from a different country or you speak a language that has different characters than the English alphabet, raise your hand. There's quite a few just in this room here. And my name is Jörn Lomax. As you can see, I have a special character in my name. I'm Norwegian. I've come to steal your oil. This has caused me some trouble. I moved to the UK 2 months ago, and my name has seen many different versions. In fact, when I applied to have a talk here at PYCON, I got an email from Peter Inglesby, and that was my name all of a sudden. What? So my name is not that. My name is not that. My name is not undefined. My name is, well, for those who don't know, that's the UTF code for the missing letter. They just had it in as a string. At least they tried. It's not that. It's not that. That's the HTML code for it. Now, some of you might recognize this one.
Yeah.
That is Python 2 trying to spell my name. In Python 3, it works just fine. And finally, this is the best one. This I actually received in an email once. So why should you care about this? Well, I have friends at home, so let's say you have a blog and I want to write to my friends at home with it. Well, I would write this. If it can come up. Wait. Oh no, I'm using Google. It doesn't work. Hang on. I'll try an open source alternative that I shall not name, and we'll just see if that slide actually works. So we'll just go through this again. Yeah, seeing this. Oh, in open source, it works. Woo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I need Whoa, I have nobody on the stage here. Oh, Björni. Björni, can you please set up? And I need Nicholas on the stage here. Ah, very good. I need Vince Knight. Vince is also here. Very good. And I need Carrie Ann is also reachable. Wonderful. I always like in the science fiction movies those user interfaces which look quite similar to the last slide with all the strange literary symbols. They all talk English, but they don't use ASCII encoding. Nobody knows why. Okay, you're still setting up? A logicon has a baby. Friends ask him, is it a boy or girl? He says, yes. Okay, give a big hand for Björni.
So hello everyone. I don't learn from my mistakes, which is why I'm trying to give this lightning talk again today after having failed yesterday. And because I like to tempt fate, I'm going to try and do a live demo, and this is not a slideshow. I'm Bjarni. I work on two things, PageKite and MailPile, and I'm going to talk mostly about neither of those things. So how many people here have read Glyph's blog post about Python packaging? Oh, not nearly enough people. Python packaging is hard if you want to distribute your code and share it with other people. And I just want to demonstrate the lengths that some people will go to in order to package up their Python code and ship it, and why maybe we want something a little more elegant. I wrote something called PyBreeder, and it breeds lots of little snakes into a big snake. I wrote this for PageKite. PageKite is a Python application, and with my background as a C programmer and then a Perl programmer and then a Python programmer, when I got started, I wasn't really into the Python idioms. So I thought it was really cool to just write one big file. I still kind of missed that time. It was an innocent time. PageKite got too big for one big file. It no longer fit in a pagekite.py. I had to break it up into subdirectories and modules and try and do things that proper software developers do. This means that I could no longer share my work easily. Suddenly I had to learn how to package my work. I had to learn how to use setup tools, and I had to learn how to build deb files and RPM files, and I still haven't figured all of that stuff out. It's hard. So because I miss the good old days and I'm a horrible hacker, I wrote a tool that would just re-merge all my work back into one big Py file. And I'm going to show you that. So here I have a very simple Python program. And I had to make it artificially complex so that I could demo something. If I run it, it does that. It says rats no readme, I am fun and I am boring. Code behind that is simple. Let's clear the screen, keep that at the top. So that's all it's doing. The only funny thing to pay attention here is this little bit, funny path. So if I run Breeder, which is the Python merging tool thing, and I take that folder and I put it in test.py, I can run that, and it does the same thing. If you want to look at how that actually works in the code, and this is where you can start throwing tomatoes or apples or whatever. So there's a warning at the top. This is a compilation. Don't edit this. It's horrible. We actually have a little dictionary of things that were in the file system. So I'm creating a virtual file system in an in-memory object. Here's my code. Here's some more code. And here's the actual code that was in __ main. So that works. You can do this. The tool is really stupid, so you're going to have to take some care if the order of the imports matters. But you can do it. And the other thing I found I needed to do was I needed to include data. So, and then my program got big, and I was like, nah, I'll compress it. So now this lovely thing looks like that. But it works, sort of. Now it's printing out the README file. So this is on GitHub. If you really feel the urge to do the same horrible things I do, you can download it. You can help me improve it. I want to show you why I wanted to do this. Because what PageKite is PageKite is a tool which I want people to download and run, and I want it to be convenient. So I wanted to have an install process that looks like this. Can you actually see that? It's clear. I'm not very good at typing, are I? Okay, PageKite UI. That's the whole thing. then I can go like this. And let's do this. So what this is going to do is this is going to expose my working directory as a accessible website that you guys can visit from your laptops. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nicholas, can you please set up? That reminds me with those data files below. My first experience with computer, I typed in a computer game of Space Invaders, and it was just a small routine reading through data and storing it into memory. And then there were around 3 tightly printed pages of hexadecimal machine code, AE, BC, 59, and if you made a mistake anywhere, of course it did not run, and it was horrible to debug because you had to compare everything. But today I won. I got a Space Invader tattoo, and by turning things around, you can make love out of Space Invaders. They told me I will get rid of that tattoo, it will wash off, maybe. Okay, I also need Norberto, who wanted to talk about Scout. Ah, okay. I'm very curious what it will be. And Nicholas, are you adequately prepared to destroy all electronic things? Okay.
30 seconds.
1 second more. So I have a very quick joke. Why couldn't R get to P? He had to Q? Yeah, it's bad, but it's short. Okay. You short-circuited everything?
No, not yet. Hang on.
Not yet? One tip for lightning talks. It is always a challenge to wire up your laptop to the projector. It's even more difficult to build your own computer while setting up for the lightning talk. Even if you don't have to solder, it's a challenge. Okay?
It'll be worth it.
It will be worth it, yeah?
Okay, ready?
Very good. Give him a big hand. Woo!
Where's Damien? Damien George, are you in the room? He's there, okay. This will be very embarrassing for you. This is a BBC microbit, one of, I don't know, less than 100 that exist in the world, and 1 million of these will be made and given out to the nation's 11-year-olds sometime in the new year. The BBC asked the Python Software Foundation, literally, we must have Python on the microbit. They wanted their moon on a stick. This isn't a very capable device. In a lot of respects. It hasn't got a very powerful CPU, but thanks to the magic of Damien, we have a full version of Python 3 running on this device, and I'm going to show you that. This is Python 3. This is Python 3, the core library, obviously without the standard library. Okay. Okay, so the device itself, as you can see, it looks like a flash drive, okay? And this is how you get files onto it. Because we like our REPLs... 20 seconds. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit.
20 seconds away.
Yeah, we have a REPL. Okay, woo! So, what you see here is Python 3 running on the microbit. This is not my Python. So we have some help built in there, but I can do something like I can import from microbit import star. Let's try that. From microbit import import star. Okay, live demos, don't you just love them? So I can do something like this. I know, I'm working quickly here, okay? So display, notice that there's completion here. Okay, scroll.
Hello. And what I'm going to do is hold this up so you might not see it, but there's an LED matrix here. Woo! For those of you who are children in the 1980s, my first program, I remember it, was 10, CLS, 20, print, Andrew is an idiot, Andrew is my little brother, 30, go to line 20, Andrew is an idiot all over the place. You can imagine exactly the same sort of thing here. We're trying to engage kids here, okay? So this has I/O, and you might be wondering, what on earth is this strange device? No, it's not a bomb. Thank you very much. It's a clock. No, it's not. It's a sort of a metronome, and it has an LED and it has a bleeper. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. And what I'm going to do is use the crocodile clips because across the bottom there are some pins that you can use, makey style. I hope I plugged it into the right place. We'll soon find out. Ground goes there. So I should be able to do io.pin0.set digital value to on. Woo. So that's a fire alarm. Switch that off. So I can do interesting things like this. Let's make it bleep. Live coding in the REPL. Notice how it indents as well. Damien, you're an absolute genius here. io.p0.set digital value to 1. Then I want to sleep for 20 milliseconds, so it just goes beep. And then notice the history I'm using here. Thank you very much, Damien, again. And then I'm going to sleep for 480 milliseconds because I want it to be at 120 beats per minute. If I press return, watch it blow up. Wow, that's amazing. Kids! If you were in Alan's talk yesterday over there, I turned up, a bunch of kids made an LED light up, and they all went, "Way, this is brilliant, we've done this." Imagine making this just flash. It's so easy, so easy, so easy. Control-C here. We are hacking on this tomorrow. We have 20 microbits that you will have to give back. So please come and help us. Damien, can you stand up, please? Give this gentleman a round of applause. I've not finished. Damien implements in hours what Microsoft takes weeks to do.
Woo, wonderful. Give him a big hand. Vince, can you please set up? And Nicholas, can you answer? How many will be distributed?
1 million.
1 million. So the good news is that 1 million British school children will get a microbit, which is fantastic. The bad news is there will be a press thing that 1 million British school children have been incarcerated for bringing dangerous-looking things into school. And if you think back some centuries, you will remember that having too many people in prisons founded a whole continent. Okay. Winston Knight choosing a hero with Python. Give him a big hand.
Thanks a lot. I'm really sorry that I'm here again. This was the talk I was going to give yesterday, and then when I changed, a few people asked me about it. How many people know what a MOBA is? Okay, so a MOBA is a video game that looks something like this. So you've got heroes on a screen, and you walk around, and there's like 6 of you, and it's 3v3 kind of thing. I'm not that good at explaining it or playing it. And there's all sorts of heroes. There's like in Vainglory, which is a really good one for mobile phones, there's about a dozen heroes, and how you build up your team has an impact on how good you are and what type of hero you like to play. But so in other words, it's a strategic decision with regards to choosing a hero. So as a game theorist, I thought there was probably something worth doing. It's kind of a big deal. They're like professionals that play this and make way more money than me. So yeah, it's there you go. There's wikis that people fill in, and they put for different heroes. This is the guy I like to play. They put a guide of how to play him, and in particular, they put something like this up, which says how good each hero is against that hero. So that's my data. I started off by scraping the data and grabbing different amounts of guides. And so then what I've got are two matrices, well, one matrix really, that says for the player in this row, how good is it against every other player? I did that in Python using Beautiful Soup. And then I used Sage, which is a mathematics package built with Python to analyze it game theoretically, because there's lots of game theory freely available in Sage. So very brief overview of what's called mixed strategies in Sage. Let's say Oriya likes Python 3, Zoe likes Python 2. They have to work together, all right? So this row is Zoe choosing Python 2, and this row is Zoe choosing Python 1. Sorry, 3. Why not 1? As long as they choose the same thing, they are better off, okay? And what you get here are what are called 3 Nash equilibria. One is them using both Python 3, one is them using both Python 1, and then one of them is mixing between it, where they both kind of interchange playing their favorite strategy. So I threw this at the data I scraped, and what you can see immediately is who you should play against everyone else. That's not nice to read. Here's a graphical representation using graph theory that says, okay, if you play Glaive, which is a big guy with an axe, then you should play Glaive against him. So if your opponent's playing Glaive, you should play Glaive. So what we see there's a fair few heroes that have no arrows going towards them. That means they should never, ever be played. They're never a best response to another player. So I calculated the Nash equilibrium for all the games, and I just calculated the average Nash equilibrium, which game theoretically is more or less nonsense. But what is interesting is you see all the values of heroes that are never played. And so you can get a nice, colorful graph like that. I put this on Reddit, and a couple of people liked it for a little bit, and then all the vainglory people started yelling at me saying, well, obviously the best hero is Taka. We all know that. So I was actually quite happy with that, because the game theory at least confirmed that they weren't doing anything wrong. This could work on any MOBA, so if anyone's got any other MOBAs that you would like to analyze with game theory, I'll send out a link to this, and that's it.
Thank you very much. I need Victor Munoz on the staging area. Victor? Ah, very good, very good, very good. Our next speaker will be Carrie Ann Philbin. Join us, change the world. Give her a big hand.
So join us, and you're probably thinking, who do I mean by us? So I mean us, the PSF, us, the Python community, us educators around the world. Help us to change the world, because children are the future, and they will be the people who change the world. So here are my top steps to change the world, which I'm hoping when I get to the end of them, you will all get your phones out and take a picture of this, because you're all going to do it, aren't you? Yes, that's the answer. So first one is to join the Python education working group. The PSF has set up a working group, and I invite you all to join that working group, and we've set up a mailing list. I started this in July. I have done nothing other than ask people to join it, but I have 3 emails ready to go, and I just want to kind of do a last pass at getting people to join up. We currently have about 60 people on the list. And the reason being is because we want to do some things. We don't just want to talk about education, we actually want to make some changes. So obviously you might have heard me talk in the past about creating a nice Python text editor. That's one thing. You may have heard us talk about an education bundle. That's something else we want to do. We also want to work on other projects. And this is the working group to kind of be involved in to do that. So another thing you can do is kind of read and contribute to IDLE Reimagined by Al Swaggart, who actually gave a talk about this at PyCon. And so he has this great GitHub repository where he talks about all the problems with IDLE, and it's a really great discussion place. You should also read, and everyone in this room should have read it by now, Python in Education by Nick Tolove, because it is brilliant. And join our education sprints to help change the world. So just very quickly, PSF membership. If you're not a member of the PSF, maybe it's because, like me, a while ago, you might have thought, actually, it's quite difficult to join the PSF. Do you have to pay to be a voting member? Actually, there's other ways in which you can contribute. And one of those is to give 5 hours to the PSF working groups, right? That's a month. So just 5 hours as part of my working group, and you'll get voting rights to the PSF. Not bad. So that's one way. So these are the things I think you should go and do. Help us create a Python text editor for education. Up here I have Dan Pope's repository because he and Nicholas Tolove have been hacking on a new Python text editor called Puppy. So I recommend you kind of go and have a look at that. That's something I think they want to sprint on Monday along with MicroPython and everything else we're looking at. We want to create a cross-platform education bundle. That's something else that we're probably going to look at. And so James Robinson, are you in here? Have you gone? Yes, wave your hand. There he is right at the back. So tomorrow he will be running a sprint because today, if you don't know, he took a balloon to Leicester Space Centre. He sent up a balloon with a Raspberry Pi attached to it and a Sense hat. These are the pictures it took today. The idea being that with that data, he wants you to help him hack on it and make the way that kids interact with that much, much easier. So please come and see his sprint. So I've done your sprint. Yep, I'm a good boss. Right, so here's your steps for changing the world. Please, these are the things. Join the working group. Contribute. Join the PSF. Contribute to this working group. Help us create a new text editor. Help us create an education bundle. And therefore, you will help children everywhere, and you will change the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dorian. Woo. Norberto? Who is Norberto? Please sit up. Very good, very good. And I don't need you on the staging area because I can see you clearly. And Norberto will talk about, what will you talk to, Norberto?
Mongo Scouts.
Mongo Scouts. So it's not Mongo, it's Mongo Scouts. Okay. And we are waiting for connecting. And we're setting up. Okay, two lawyers go into a restaurant. They take out their sandwiches and start to eat. The waitress comes to them and tells them, you can't eat your own food here. The lawyers shrug, exchange their sandwich, and keep on eating. Norberto, Mongo Scout, give him a big hand.
So as the previous joke, I work for MongoDB, the company that offers you a freedom of forgetting. So it's always good to have that right in your code. Anyway, so I'm here to talk to you about Mongo Scouts. If you want to get more information about it, it's kind of an ultra secret project, so I shouldn't be talking to you about it. But anyway, I'm stupid, so I'll do it. I once went into a Postgres conference, and they were making jokes about MongoDB and showing a lot this picture. So around here, who here knows about MongoDB has ever found himself in this situation dealing with a lot of pile of Lego bricks? No? Not too many? This joke doesn't resonate too much? It's basically because every single document in MongoDB can be different from each other. Some of them will have some colors, but a shape, you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes developers feel like this because they have so many different things to talk to and work with that they can be a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of different objects and different shapes they need to handle. And if you think about teams, and the joke will be on that, you have your sysadmins, your other developers, your different code paths, all working on a big, big pile of different shapes, colors, and whatever. So we have built this tool in MongoDB that allows you to inspect on your documents. And it will do it in a sampling way. It will sample your database, check for the different fields that exist in your documents, and tell you ordinary things. Like, for example, if you are familiar with MongoDB, you probably can't see that well here, you're always going to have an underscore ID. This means that 100% of the times that you find a MongoDB object, you'll have it there. But also, that object ID might have different types. It can be a string, can be an integer, can be an object ID. Here you can also see how much times those different types will appear. Apart from that, you have the different fields. And those different fields, well, they can happen 56% of the times, or 13% of the times. So, and if you know about documents, you know that it's in a hierarchical shape. So you can have sub-documents in it and sub-fields. And it's awesome to be able to analyze how many times, if action is there will be a link, and it's probably going to be having a name as well. Also, you can have 13% times captions. What kind of data types do they have? What's the distribution between different data types? And which kind of values do they have in the different groups? So this is basically a tool that allows you, no matter what data you have in your MongoDB collection or what data you have in your database, because you can express your own collection, your own queries. For example, here I'm just doing a full collection scan to get everything and sample on that. You can also have targeted queries, like if ID exists, which would be everything would match that. Exists equals 1, for example, and you can run these kind of queries all over the Yoga again. So bottom line is, if you ever saw yourself in a strangled way trying to figure out how many times does a field have and what the data type of that field, this will be able to help you understand better your overall data sets. If you want to know a little bit more about this particular tool, we are going to have our upcoming conference here in London, or here, well, in the UK. So we'll be talking and demo it a lot. If you are intrigued by this presentation, if you're not, well, you can tell me all about it, and if you want to know a little bit better.
Thank you very much for the talk. Thank you so much. Okay, our second to last speaker will be Victor Munoz about testing without writing tests. He's starting up. I tried to develop a pencil with erasers on both ends, but it was kind of pointless. Now we test without writing tests. Give a big hand to Victor Munoz.
This talk is going to be about fun with postcodes and lies, including the title of the talk, but not so much. So I'm a lead software engineer at SPD. We build tools to manage property data, which means we use addresses which have postcodes. No, nothing new. So what's in a postcode? A typical British postcode is, you're quite lucky because it's a very clear structure, but many variations. And writing a regex to validate that is very tricky. And we have to do many cases. For instance, all these are valid postcodes, although they have slightly different shapes. We see in the first bit. So we see three different approaches. There is a list of official rules for postcodes. There's sort of a list of what you can and you can't have in every bit. And there is even a wrong expression in an official document, which is this, which actually doesn't work. Fails with about 30% of the official postcodes in the UK. Then someone said, by the way, this is not Lisp. No one, this is. Then someone said in Stack Overflow, oh, I fixed it. Well, you didn't. It's actually quite bad because also the capitals, that's quite bad. So I said, OK, I can do something ugly, but which actually works pretty much every time. But we said, OK, we have this local expression. How do we test it? OK, carefully, mostly. We have to create a lot of cases to cover for all the possibilities that the local expression generates, and generate also cases for the failures, which are also a lot. So hell. So is there a magic way to test it? Well, yeah, there is. We can use PyTest to generate tests from our data. And yes, this is basically a table-driven test with some magic in between. First, we have to check if the postcode matches, if it matches the right thing, if the first half is correct, and if the second half is correct. So basically, this. So this is how I actually wrote two tests. But then also for invalid postcodes, we have to check that it doesn't match something that it's not a postcode. It's that. And then we also have to check for variations, because I want to check also for the first half and the second half. And there may not be a space in the middle, or it might be in lowercase, or maybe there is only the first bit, or any combination of those. First bit in lowercase, or no spaces lowercase, or mixed case, or whatever. So we basically create some transformations and say, okay, I will get all my data and I will transform it through that. So you unite the tests, and you hook it into PyTest. It's actually the real code that hooks that into PyTest. And finally, your test cases actually look like this. So you see there's no tests over there, only the two others, which are the parent class. But I want to cover everything because, of course, that list is far from comprehensive. So how can I cover everything, literally? Well, there is the code point database, which has more than 1.7 million postcodes and covers, well, pretty much everything interesting. So we can extract the data and then generate 1.7 million tests. Actually, that's a lie. It's more like 9 million tests. So does it work? Hopefully. So this is a modified version, OK? I'm not running 1.7 million tests multiplied by 4, because we don't have time. So let's say, OK, I think that's stupid, so remove that bit. Execute it. And, oh, it's failing. Oh. We see the culprit. The culprit is the is it that way? So we go back. We undo the stupid change. Drop out. Yeah, it passes. Finally. So if you have questions, comments, that's great.
Thank you very much. So I dare to run 4 minutes into the non-closing closing with our last speaker, Jeffrey French, about selfish fishes or something like that. Oh? Huh? You are also on the list, yeah, but there are many more on the list. Sorry. No, it's not because the list of speakers is over, but the time has gone. And time travel is still not legal in the United Kingdom. Also, you have television shows about it with Doctor Who. Counting selfish fish using deep learning. Give him a big hand.
Thanks a lot. So, often the fish we eat is caught by fishing trawlers, and I'm afraid as part of the process they discard quite a lot of their catch. It's either not saleable or it's over the quota limits, that kind of thing, and I'm afraid a lot of it's discarded into the ocean dead. This is kind of a problem. Marine Scotland wanted to quantify the amount that's being thrown away so that they can figure out what's being wasted for scientific purposes and also to get an idea of the situation. And the current status quo, you stick a human on board to watch the process and they quantify it, but you can only sample a few fishing trips out of very, very many, so you don't get that much accurate data. So they decided to improve matters by installing CCTV cameras over the discard conveyor belts so they can monitor what's going on. And then they decided to manually analyze the data. Yeah, basically what you've got is videos of a conveyor belt with dead fish, and you have to watch that all day. And anyone want that job? Anyone? One hand shot up. Okay.
Never seen German TV, I guess.
And this is basically the kind of footage you're watching. It's not lovely, and you know, it's the reality of the situation. And so, can we use computer vision to do this? Can we process that? Kind of challenging. It looks like an object detection. You want to stick a box around each fish. That's not really going to work because of the fact you can't. They're angled all sorts of ways. They lie on top of each other. You end up needing a segmentation challenge. So that's just manually done to give you an idea of what we're after. How? Let's use deep learning, like everyone else is for imaging these days. We ended up using an algorithm called N4 Fields. Can provide references to anyone who's interested. Using Python, using Theano and Lasagna. And so we start off with these images here. First, we separate out the foreground with the first pass. And the second pass, we detect edges to separate them into individuals. And the nice thing, that's all done automatically. So if I can just quit out the presentation, and you end up with you end up with this at the end. So you end up with a video with all of the individuals mostly identified, and the idea is then we can pass that on and count the fish and hopefully classify them by species. There are some errors which you notice due to the flickering, but that's effectively an automated process. And so the idea is we've even got a website up so the Marine Scotland can then upload their footage and get it done as a web service. But for you guys, if you want to get started with deep learning, it's quite possible. First step, ConvNet.js. It's by a guy called Andrew Carpathy at Stanford. It is the most fantastic resource for learning about deep learning and convolutional neural networks. Check it out. You can find out what they are, how neural networks work. You can get an idea of the field and get started. Next up, NewMuse Theano tutorials on GitHub. They're very, very brief. They're based on Theano, and they're all Python. They're very short, and it's like the minimum amount of code you need in order to get going with deep learning and deep neural networks. And then finally, deeplearning.net has more in-depth tutorials that go through the maths, the theory, everything. And this is how I got started with it, and it's really good. Theano is a damn good library for experimenting this kind of thing, and Lasagna is a nice library for doing image processing with deep learning. So if you want to get into this field, it's hot, it's cool, and it can do really good stuff. Those are quite challenging images. They're real-life stuff, yet we can handle them to a reasonable degree of accuracy, which is better than a lot of existing stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I have one question to ask from you all. Don't go around and tell everybody we ended with a fishy lightning talk. I, for one, really like Roman numerals. Quite difficult for the end. Thank you very much. It was a great audience. Please give a big hand to all the lightning talk speakers. Who volunteered to be a tribute, and give it all up for Seth for the non-ending ending.
Could I have this one on so we can talk to people? Hello. Thank you, Harold, and thank you for coming and doing your lightning talks once again. We are running out of time, and we always promise to finish at 6 so that the boring people who want to get on trains can do that. It was already mentioned a few times, but then we're going to mention, do we have a couple of more pictures of our balloon we want to show? Run down quickly. You'll be pleased to know that the balloon flew, and the bad news is it landed in Peterborough, but luckily for the balloon, it was retrieved. So, I love Peterborough and Coventry, really. Pardon? Brilliant.
So we've got Nick here. That's him yesterday getting rather excited about a tethered balloon we ran. We then tried to capture some kids, but the balloon flew away, so we didn't. And then we had a team of teachers that went away and they launched their balloon. There's them chasing it. We've got our flight path there. And then we got these pictures back from our flight today, which was called PYCON 1. So these pictures... And then it landed in a field, and we found it, and that's us, and it nearly hit some windmills, and that was the end. There we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've got 200,000 lines of SenseHat data from that flight as well, which we'd love people to come and play around with tomorrow. Thank you.
So one last reminder. We have sprints tomorrow. Please come. As always, we'll get here around 9ish, and then at 9:30 we will have sprints. I forgot to ask whether breakfast is on or not tomorrow. It's not. It's not, no. Okay, good. The problem with the venue tomorrow is that we don't have exclusive use of the venue tomorrow. We just have like this kind of area around here. So the restaurants and cafes are used for serving the people who live and work in this building. We'll come at 9:30 and we will listen to all the sprint ideas and probably knock a few on the head if we don't have enough people for each. yeah, so please come and have fun. Thank you so much for coming to PyCon UK 2015. I have some notices. Do we have some notices from anybody? Well, you've got one notice. Everybody with a notice, come to me.
On your way out, there will be a bowl on the front desk where some of you registered. Could you please leave your lanyards and your badges in that bowl, and it lets us reuse it next time and shaves a bit more off your ticket price. Thank you.
If you want to keep your badge for the sprint, you can do that.
Hi, this is just a quick call for some strapping young volunteers. The poster session yesterday, the boards were taken down, but they need to be moved to reception. So that there's currently some bags and packages in the bistro area. If you could self-organise and move those to the reception area this evening, that'd be great. Otherwise, Zeth and I are going to be doing that. And while Zeth's here, I just want to ask everybody here to say thank you to him for all the work that he's done, not just for this conference, but for all the conferences going back to 2007, which was before his
Okay, thank you so much. So, without further ado, go home.